Good morning. How are you all? Thank you very, very much for joining me, and clearly you've rated us a little bit higher than Facebook and the Unity VR team, so thank you very much. So we're going to talk about push-button worlds and what Mantle can do to create runtime 3D environments today. So my name's Dean Gifford. I'm the co-founder of Mantle Technologies. We're based in London, and today we've set ourselves a little bit of a task, so I'm going to try to get through as much of it as I can, and I think we're going to be able to do it. So we're going to put a game world together in 20 minutes, which is going to consist of two things. It's going to be an environment. We're going to skin the entire planet in 3D content. We're going to do that in runtime. We're going to do that on a mobile, and we're going to build that from scratch. We are going to cheat a little bit. We're going to use some plugins from the asset store, and we're going to use some art that we put together. We haven't done a lot of work on it. It's just enough to sort of show the concept. And then we're going to put some prototype gameplay in. We're going to use the player's geolocation to drive some of that gameplay, and we're then going to have a controllable character that can interact with the world. So the ingredients that we're using today, some of the asset store content is we're using color, which is a really nice shader pack. We're using Little Heroes, which is a really good character pack, so rather than having to create and animate your own. We're using Ultimate Joystick, which is a screen-based controller, which is also really, really useful. The custom art that we've done is a handful of textures and some models that our artist has put together in 1 week. She's not done anything for mobile before, and it's a bit rushed, but I think you'll get the impression of what we're trying to do. And most importantly, as the asset store tool, we're using the Mantle environment system to plug everything together. So it kind of sounds complicated, but it really doesn't have to be. What we're going to do is use existing materials and prefabs. We're using Mantle's stepped workflow to go from macro layers down to granular elements, so we can get really broad brush strokes, understanding what it looks like before we spend too much time on it. And the really key part is the rapid iteration. So we can prototype, we can modify, repeat, and we can go back, and it doesn't cost us a lot of time. So in short, the sales pitch is that Mantle's an editor plugin combining map data with 3D generation that effectively allows us to boot up environments and whole worlds in seconds. What that means in practice is we make meshes, we apply materials, and we place prefabs. And how we do that is with this. So Mantle uses mapping information as the seed to generate content and to place other prefabs. Now, that's really important, because if you're starting with a blank slate, it can take a lot of time to actually get something onto the page. So the way that we do that is with the mapping information, we take the various layers that are available to us, so buildings, transport networks, land usage, and elevation. And then with the Mantle content, we create what's called a theme. And that theme holds the models that you want to use, the materials you want to use, and then the generation options we use to stitch that all together. Then you hit play, and we create that world in runtime, and then you can export that out to the devices that you're after using Unity. So in practice, what that means is we get design time environments where you generate a certain area, and then as with any normal workflow, you can go and decorate that as you please, or in runtime, which is what we're going to focus on today. The auto generation that we do looks at landscape, buildings, transport routes, and then we can process those transport routes into a simulation layer as well, which is pretty useful. We do auto texturing and procedural decoration. So not only do we create the environment, but we can then decorate it. So we place the content that you've chosen in the way that you want it to be placed down. And most importantly, it's deterministic. Now, can I get a show of hands in the room? Who's a developer here? OK, that's awesome. So some of you, if not all of you, will then know what determinism means. But effectively, it means that when we generate an environment, no matter what device we're doing that on, if it's an iPhone, if it's an Android, if it's a desktop machine, we're going to place the same prefabs in the same location every time, which means that we don't have to store the world. We can generate it just before the player wants to go and look at it, which is really useful. And that's how we can start cheating to generate entire planets worth of content. So the style creation system we have, I'm not going into huge amounts of detail because we'll see it in a second, but effectively we can take each of the layers that are available to us, and then you can add as much or as little detail as you want to get the theme, look and feel that you're after. So over the months we've been playing around, there's really quite a lot you can do with the look and feel, and you can get some really interesting generation patterns. And so again, here are all the things just in one shot: design and runtime, mesh auto generation, auto texturing, procedural decoration, and our style creation system. Okay, so if we're going to put a project together, we're going to need a name. So we thought we'll have a pinch of Minecraft. We want some blocky 8-bit throwback stuff. Maybe we want that to look nice as well, so maybe we'll go for some styling of Monument Valley. And because it's geolocational, clearly we want a lot of Pokemon Go. So if we throw that in a blender, it has to be original as well, so we thought maybe we could have something like Minecraft Valley Go. I think that'll probably sell fairly well. It's a working title. You know, the guys who own the IP, I don't think they're litigious, but you know, we might want to change that. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to create an environment, add some prototype gameplay, and then we'll have a look at the demo. So, swapping out to the business end. So, I'm going to skip through importing all the content. Everyone knows what the import bar looks like. So effectively what we've got here is a basic project where we've imported Mantle, and we've imported the packages that we've explained previously. We also have the content that we've designed. So spinning up a basic scene, we've got nothing in the scene except the main camera, the directional light that Unity puts in as standard, and we've added the Mantle prefab. So what the Mantle prefab does is it does three things. It has a project area, it has a data source, and it has the theme. So the project area, fairly understandable. It's the area that we want to generate. And the data source gives us the ability then to define where the mapping information comes from. The theme gives us the information to tell how we want to treat that mapping information. So the first thing we want to do, we don't want to go to New York, so we're going to go and grab something from around here. So right now in Mantle, it's really just a copy and paste. We're integrating this into the UI very shortly, but effectively you can just paste that in, and we'll call that LA. So with Mantle, the location specified, the data source that we're looking at. Now, we're only going to look at the vector layer today, and the vector layer that we're pulling in is from one of the two services that we've integrated, and the one that we're using today is Mapbox. So Mapbox very courteously have given us the ability to demo a lot of this content for free, which you also get the ability for when you have a look at the beta. They've got a talk at 2 o'clock. You should really go and check them out. So we've selected the service that we're pulling through here. And that's all we need for the demo. We're not going to go into the rest of these. They are quite juicy, but we'll have to leave that for later. So with that in place and just using a default theme, if we hit play, what that does is it goes and grabs the content and it generates it. So that's the default theme, not really a theme. It's just nice and white. But if we throw the wireframe shading on, you can see effectively what we're doing. We're dragging all that content out and we're tessellating it. And we're effectively just creating that volumetric 3D space. So that's great, but that's not exactly what we want it to look like. So what we're going to do is we'll jump into our part 1. And so again, we've got our setup. We've got the cool, so we've got our area. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to create a new theme. So if we go to Tools, Mantle, Create Theme, we get a brand new theme. I'm going to put that into the demo folder. And I'm just going to call that Demo Part 1. Okay, so what the theme does is it exposes the different mapping layers to us. So we've got land use, we've got water, we've got buildings, transport, and earth. So to demo, what we're going to do is look at land use first. And we're going to create a new slot. We're going to pick, let's make a park. Okay, and so now we've got the ability to throw what we call a Mantle style associated with that park. So what we're going to do is we're going to now create a new style. We've got 3 types of style. Basic is for pretty much everything. Building specific and transport network specific. So we're just going to go basic. And we're going to put that in there as well. And we're going to call this LA Park. Okay, so looking at the style does 2 very specific things. It textures the mesh that we create, and then it decorates it. So what we're going to do is create a material slot. We're going to pick something green, like maybe a park. And if that's all we do, we go back to Mantle. We add the new theme that we've just created, which has the link to the park that we've just created. And if we hit play again, what you get to see is we've now got, oh my God, we've got a green blob sitting in the middle of all that white. Okay, so we've now got the ability to texture it. We're going to make it a little bit more interesting than that. So if we go back to the park, and we go to the really business end side of things, we go to the terrain fill. What we're going to do is put some trees in it. So if we pick a tree, a nice low poly tree. Now, with the placement and positioning, we've got the ability to randomly scale, which is what you want to do if you want some interesting effects and not to have everything look overly generic. We're going to place a couple of hundred per square kilometer. We're going to give a little bit of noise, and we're going to randomly rotate it. So that's basically the process for putting a prefab into the world and adjusting how you want it to appear. So now if we go back, hit play, jump back to the scene, and so after it's generated, it then drops down all of that content into the scene. So let's focus on that. And so now we've got some trees, and they're rotated a little bit. That's just one prefab, and they kind of look interesting. That's all right. But our park's not really complete. So let's give it a little bit more detail. So if we go back to the theme, we're going to add another slot. And let's put some grass in. So you could do grass quite happily with a shader. We're not using a shader today. We're just using a mesh that's got some level of detail control on it. We're not going to scale it. We're not going to do that at all. We are going to have a lot of grass, some noise and random. And then we hit play. And we get another layer, another level of detail going in there if we turn off the shaded wireframe. And so now we've got a park, we've got some grass, we've got some trees. It's not bad, it looks kind of okay. We can do one more thing to that though. So if we, again, go back to the style, instead of the terrain fill, what we're going to do is put an edge on it. So when I think of a park, I think of a park surrounded by hedges. So we're going to put a hedge in there. The edge fill's slightly different, but we're going to scale it a little bit. We're going to give it a little bit of a gap. We're going to put it a little bit out from the edge. So the terrain fill edge, rather, is because it's a stroke, we can position where that appears on the mesh. We're going to give it a 100% chance of spawn and randomly rotate it. Now, the most important thing, it's not terribly clear, we're working on the UI a little bit, is when we're placing the content, we can test the different layers that are underneath it. So for edge objects that are being placed, they might pour over onto other meshes that are surrounding it, and we need to tell them which ones they're allowed to spawn onto. This gives us the ability to turn off things like roads that are underneath the ground, and you put side decorations on it. You don't want that going through a park because you can't see the road because it's a tunnel. Things like that allow you to control the ability where those prefabs get instanced. So land use and earth, and let's give that a go. Okay, so now we've got a park, we've got some grass, we've got some trees, and we've got an interesting hedgerow that's kind of going around the outside. And that's really the process that allows you to take any type of area that you can define and start breaking it down into a style. So we could quite happily, again, use shaders on the grass. We could use a whole stack of different objects to place throughout the land use itself. And because it's prefabs, it's really only limited to what you can come up with. It could be a starting point for your characters. It could be a hit chance of, or a chance of an encounter. Literally any object that you place down, we can place in there. Sound, all that sort of thing. So if we now skip, so we've got the process. If we now skip into what we do if we accelerate that process a little bit more, and we've got slightly more styling. So we add a little bit of sky. We add some buildings. We change the way that the Earth looks. We change the way that transport routes look. And so it's still processing the content. And so now we've got this interesting environment where, if I just change the viewport, we've got decorations in the ground, we've got trees, we've got buildings of different types being colored differently, we've got a sky, we've got some fog, and suddenly we've got the environment that we're sitting in right now styled in a completely different way that we can play with, that we can generate really quickly. So the way that we've been previewing this right now is in design time, and we'll look at how runtime updates that a little bit in a second. So now that we've got an environment, we want to be able to start capitalizing on how we can get some gameplay into that. So the game mechanic that we're looking at for the demo today is effectively a collection mechanic. So Pokemon Go, good concept. We're going to place some objects around that the player might want to find, and we can do that by capitalizing on the styling capability. So if we turn that off, and we go to looking through the land use, let's say on a park, we actually want to place down some of our content. So what we're actually placing down is, go to the style, so we've got a capsule. And inside that capsule could be a wide variety of things, but let's see what comes out of it. So again, going through, it's building the world again from scratch. And there we go. So now we've got a capsule that's just waiting for a player to come and pick it up. So it's really quite nice to be able to have the ability to throw content down and decorate it, iterate through it because it's effectively non-destructive. You can continue to modify and change how the styles work. So now that we've got that, I'm going to skip forward ahead just a little bit more. And so the scene that we're looking at the moment has directional light. It's got Mantle again. It's got a new object though, so it's got the Mantle Runtime Manager. So what the Mantle Runtime Manager does is it takes an association to a player controller. The player controller then gives the engine the understanding of where it needs to render the content, where the player's looking, and how to optimize loading that content in. So the player prefab that we've chosen is Curious Henrietta. So she's going to be our character to explore the weird new world of Minecraft Valley Go. And she's got a couple of basic scripts. So some of the scripts are from Ultimate Joystick. We've created a couple of really basic scripts that took us an afternoon that allow us to collide the player into the capsule, pick it up, and do something with it. So if we are to hit play now. Okay, so now we've got the environment that we've styled. We've got a character that we've taken down from the asset store, and we've got a touch controller that we've thrown on also from the asset store. So we can wander our character around in the world. Obviously not great for demoing on a PC, but we'll have a look at it on mobile in a second. So now that we've got our character, we can walk her over and see what we can find. So there's this capsule over here. Okay, so we found something really quite interesting. If we jump out of the way. Let's go over here. So we found a thing, and what we've said that we want players to be able to do is once you pick up a thing, you can collect them, and you can put them anywhere you like. So if the world isn't quite to your liking, we might want to say, put a cactus with an octopus on top of it over here, and we're going to do that. So every city needs a giant cactopus. Cactopus? Well, I think it's a cactopus now. A cactus with an octopus on top of it. So that really is the culmination of, for us, right here, 20 minutes worth of piecing things together. It would take you maybe another 10 or 15 minutes to update the different styles that you're after according to how you're going to put them through to build. But realistically, the thing that Mantle is trying to get you to be able to do is not worry too much about the world creation side of things, but get a prototype up and running really fast that allows you to do the thing that you want to do, which is iterate gameplay. You want to be able to change that gameplay. You want to iterate it really quickly. You don't want to mess around building a world when you could spin one up and make some changes. So what I'm going to do now is probably foolishly try and demo this on the phone. So if we swap out to Okay, so this is pulling content locationally with the scene that we've just built. And it's going to build it right in front of us. And basically, it's going to also test where the character can be placed. And it's dropped us right outside. So let's not get run over by things. So yeah, the other thing we didn't demo is the simulation. So effectively, all the transport routes, we can basically just take a couple of prefabs. We've got a Mantle simulation controller. We can put that straight down on it. And now we've got the ability on an Android to run around with our character in a world that we've just created that's based on the location where you are right now. And provided you don't get run over by cars, we can go and pick up our interesting prizes. And let's put them down. I did just pull the jump height down a little bit. So let's put you right there. And so now we've got the ability to make changes in the world as well. And also, who doesn't need a gigantic marshmallow bunny? Yeah, let's do that. So that's the world that we just put together, using Mantle, using a couple of things from the asset store, and building that to Android. So okay, so the parts to remember about that is that through mapping, we've got the ability to cover worldwide anywhere you want to generate, and we can do that in runtime, we can do that in design time. Because we're taking factual information, it doesn't have to be the case that you only create factual content. So you can use the underlying content to generate and place buildings that you've created. You can turn the building layer off completely. And so you can really take the world and use that mapping content as a seed to generate your own worlds. Rapid prototyping. So we've clicked that together. We can make our changes. They're completely separate from content changes that you want to make. And so you can really either prototype your levels really quickly or use it as part of your level design tool to create that content and get it through really quickly. Single design time levels and runtime streaming worlds. We've got a native geolocational support framework. So we take the content, the geolocation from the device, and we can power that through. We've not done a 2D example, but I think it would, given that the way that it works, if you had the camera top down, you had your objects customized for 2D, I don't think there's any reason you that you wouldn't be able to do 2D or 2.5D in the Pokemon Go style. And of course, it works with desktop, mobile. Because the spaces that we're creating are volumetrically accurate and correct, it does mean that you can take an Oculus or a Vive SDK, drop them straight in, and the world is scale correct, which is really, really important, also very useful. So really quickly in review, just to wrap up, so we use color for the shader set, little heroes for the character set, ultimate joystick for the touch controller. We've used the Mantle environment system, the Pro Studio version that's on the asset store at the moment, to create the themes and the design time content. And what we showed today is the Mantle Live beta to generate runtime environments from themes. Now, what I didn't really show you is effectively how the tiles work, but effectively we generate tiles around the player, and as the player moves through the world, we stream down new tiles, we generate them on the fly, and we've got a relatively well-optimized algorithm at the moment that will determine which tiles the player is looking at, which tiles are important to the player, and pull those down. We've got a little bit more work to do, but that's why it's in beta. The roadmap for us, we've got an update to Mantle Studio coming up where we've got 3D terrain and image tile overlays, which are really, really important. We haven't shown those in the mobile demo because they're not ready for mobile just yet, but you can do some pretty cool stuff with them. So again, this is all streaming from map content. So thanks to the guys at Mapbox, we can stream down terrain height information, which as a map nerd is really cool, and it gives us the ability to generate that terrain on the fly. As well as the building placement, as well as the transport location placement. And we've now got the ability to pull down satellite layers and any other raster layers as well. So if you design your own map content, you can pull that down and have it textured over top of the world. We've got the ability to, at the moment, we're playing with texturing that over tops of buildings as well to get the roof content. We've also got some more tools. So Mantle Live, once it goes out of beta, will be on the asset store. And currently, the pro version of Mantle Studio is quite large, and we're looking to do an indie version that's a little bit more accessible in the very, very near future. And so I'd like to finish up today by saying we've got the ability to win 2 Mantle Live previews and Lego as well. So if you'd like to win a Mantle USB that's got the Mantle Live beta on it, all you need to do, hit up the URL and sign up. Tell us how you'll use Mantle Live, and we'll pick the best 2 winners tomorrow. So we've got a couple of minutes left for questions. More than happy to answer anything you've got, and if we run out of time, I can catch up with you outside. Oh, thank you.
Do you need to buy content separately?
So as it stands right now, at least the preview versions can run on the lower end subscriptions for the map services. So Mapbox, if you attend their talk, you'll find out. But effectively, you can run it on a preview version. We do have other map services where it's free and open source as well. But the answer is effectively it's free.
Do you just out of curiosity, is Bing one of the potential providers?
Sorry, say again?
Is Bing a potential provider of map data?
Basically, for us, our process going forward is to add more map services and more map content. And that's basically, if there's a need for that and people ask for it, we'll happily go and put that together.
What is the largest area of terrain we're able to pull down with Mantle, like 25K?
Yeah, so at the moment with the Mantle Pro Studio, we can pull down 5x5, so 25 square kilometers of content. That's effectively for us an arbitrary limitation. With something like runtime and the work that we've now done, I don't think there's going to be much of an issue to start taking the work that we've done with runtime back to the design time capability, so you can start painting in areas that you would like to render individual tiles of. So at the moment, it's 25 square kilometers at a time, but hopefully that will be something that expands in the future as well.
Yeah, I'm sorry, we don't have any time for more questions, but thanks again for a really interesting talk.
Awesome. Thank you very much.